Thank you everyone so much for joining. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. This is an Ask Admissions webinar specifically preparing for early admission. So we are joined today by 4 of our programs that offer an early admission application deadline, which I'll talk about in just a moment. Okay, a little bit of just housekeeping before we get started. This webinar is being recorded and we will be putting it on our YouTube page, so no need to worry about, missing any information. It will all be accessible to you in just a couple days on our YouTube. And then while you're there, please feel free to check out some of our other videos that we have if you might be interested in other programs. There are some short campus tours as well, so please peruse what we have available to you. And then for any questions you have throughout the session, please feel free, you don't have to wait till the end, please feel free to use the Q&A section of the Zoom toolbar to add any questions that you have. I know we had some pre-submitted questions as well. There's going to be time at the very end to get some of those questions answered if they're not throughout the session. And then there are going to be a number of folks on the back end of this session, sometimes answering your questions in the Q&A. So I'm joined by not only the faculty directors of those 4 programs, but also the program managers and also the admission team. So there's a lot of people on the back end who can help answer any questions that you might have. And just as a reminder, these are the 4 programs that do offer an early application opportunity. So it's the CIS program, MCIT, Robotics, and Data Science programs. So please, I hope that you have a lot of great questions for these programs. They're here to help answer any questions you have to get ready for that date. Before we jump into the program information, I want to give a quick overview of the application itself, just so that you're aware of all of the pieces of the application that are required by the deadline. So there's an online application, of course, which we just ask various questions about you, about your background. We require a resume, a personal statement. With the personal statement, please do answer all of the prompts. There's 6 different prompts. It's not an either or. We really ask that you answer all of them, and we ask them all for a reason. All of the programs joining us today require 2 letters of recommendation, but do allow space for a 3rd. So just be mindful that 2 are required. We suggest 1 academic and 1 professional in nature, but if you have a 3rd one that you would like to use, you can absolutely do that as well. There is a $90 application fee, and we got a lot of questions about this. This fee is not waived for attending different informational sessions. It is required. You are able to submit your application and pay the fee after if you can't do it in that moment, but your application will not be reviewed until that application fee has been paid. We require transcripts. Unofficial transcripts are totally fine for all schools that you have attended. So if you've attended only 1, that's great. If you've attended multiple, if you have transfer credits, please do include all of the unofficial transcripts from any of the schools you've attended. This is a space where a lot of applications get held up because you might not include all of the transcripts, but we do require any transfer credits, any courses we see that are not listed on your transcript that you include. We're going to be reaching out to you, and that can cause a little bit of a holdup for you. Some folks might need to submit an English proficiency score. I'll talk about that in the next slide for just a moment. And then optional are the GRE scores. So you can send them if you want, if you feel that they would strengthen your application. Maybe you feel, it's been a while since you've been in an academic program. Maybe you didn't do so well in undergrad in your quantitative courses. So if you want to use it to strengthen your application, you can absolutely do that, and you can send them. Please note, if you do send your GRE scores, they should come to us officially directly through ETS. You can't self-report them. They have to come from the testing center directly. And we get a lot of questions about this, so I just want to go over it really clearly and make sure that there's room for answering any questions. So we do require English proficiency scores from anyone that is a non-US citizen and whose first language is not English. So we accept the TOEFL, the IELTS, or the Duolingo. We don't have a preference in which test you take. It's totally about what is more accessible to you, what is available to you. We also accept the at-home versions of these tests as well. And please note for any and all of these 3 test score options, the tests do have to be valid, which means they have to be taken within the past 2 years. And they also have to come to us officially directly from the testing center. So I've also included the ways you can send those scores to us. The TOEFL comes directly from ETS with that score code listed, and the IELTS and the Duolingo have drop-down options, and you can select specifically our school. We do offer waivers for this requirement. So on the bottom of this screen, you'll see the criteria. If you match any of these, this requirement will be waived. But I really want to make it clear that this is done after you submit your application, and it's done manually when we look at your application. So some of you will submit your application and you'll see an application checklist, and it will say that you have to submit an English proficiency score, but you meet one of these criteria. That's because we have to do that manually, so it does take a couple days. So we ask that you be a little bit patient after submitting your application, just to make sure that we can process your application in a timely manner before you reach out to us. And the important dates and deadlines that I just want to bring up. So as I mentioned, the programs joining us today do offer an early application option. So if your application is submitted and complete by November 1st, then it will be reviewed early and you will get a decision by January 15th. I do say submitted and complete because that does include test scores, that does include letters of recommendation. It does have to be complete by that November 1st deadline. The main benefit here is really that you'll get your decision earlier and that you can plan to make sure that this is the right choice for you earlier. If you don't feel like you're ready by November 1st, that's absolutely fine. We don't want you to rush. But if you would prefer, there's a February 1st deadline as well, and that is the final deadline for all of our master's programs. Again, your application has to be complete by that deadline as well. So for folks who maybe submit by November 1st, but their application is not complete by November 1st, your application will then be reviewed within that regular application timeline. So just be mindful, November 1st is maybe not the day you should hit submit on your application because you want to make sure that it's absolutely complete as well. And now I am going to pass it along to our CIS programs and our MCIT program.
Thanks, Abby. Hi, everyone. My name is Swapnil Sheth. I'm the director of the CIS Masters Program. And since the CIS and MCIT programs have a decent amount of overlap in terms of what people end up doing and what both while they're here after they graduate, we'll just go back and forth. So I'll just let Arvind introduce himself briefly, and then we'll just go back and forth.
Hi, folks. My name is Arvind Bhusnurmat. I am the director of the MCIT on-campus program and excited to talk to you about this program.
Cool. Thanks, Arvind. So let me get started. So the CIS Masters program is what I think of as the traditional sort of Masters in CS. So we assume that your background in undergrad is something similar. So it could be computer science, computer engineering, or something like closely related like IT in like certain places. So we assume that you've done prior coursework in things like data structures and algorithms and operating systems and programming and so on. So if that is the background that you have, then the CIS Masters could be a good fit for you. So in terms of what you'll do while you're here, so all of our master's programs are 10 classes. They are all structured slightly differently in terms of core versus electives. So as far as CIS is concerned, there are 4 core classes, I'll get to that in a second, and 6 electives. So In the core classes, we have a whole bunch of choices. You can see that on the screen. We have some requirements that you take at least one theory class, like algorithms or theory of computation. You take at least one systems class, like OS or software systems, etc. And you can take a machine learning class, and there are some other courses as well. In terms of the electives, you have three that you need to take within the CIS department, and then the other three can be CIS, or we have a large list of approved non-CIS electives. So, of course, like I'm a little bit biased. I think the CIS department is fantastic, and we have a whole bunch of amazing courses and a bunch of amazing faculty. But at the same time, we do have a lot of other good departments, both within engineering and outside of engineering. So, as part of CIS, you can take classes in other parts of engineering, you can take classes in Wharton, you can take classes in the College of Arts and Sciences, and that's perfectly fine as well. One last thing I'll mention is within CIS, you can also pursue something called a concentration. So this will be something that shows up on your transcript, and it's a way to demonstrate depth in a certain area of computer science. So this could be in something like computer vision or theory or AI. So we have a whole bunch of concentrations that are now available for people to use as well. Could we get to the next slide, please?
Yeah, next slide. All right, let me talk a little bit about the CIT program. So this is the program kind of like a little bit on the other end of the spectrum from what Swap talked about. This is the program for students who do not have computer science background. So you've done something else in your undergrad and you're very excited about computer science and you're interested in entering into the field. This is the program for you. Most of the folks in this program do come from some STEM background. So as we have in the slides, about 60-70% of the folks will have some STEM background. However, there are lots of folks who come from other majors, and we've had a great diversity of majors. So we've had folks, these are not just made up instances, these are folks who have graduated from our program successfully with an undergrad in history or piano. We've had folks from sociology, psychology, and then they take this graduate program. The way this program is structured is that the first year is basically where we build up the foundations. We have 6 core classes, and the 6 core classes are divided roughly into like the programming and data structures courses, then the theory side of things, and then the hardware, or as I consider the things behind the scenes. How does a computer work? How is memory managed? All of those. So there are 3 core classes that students do in their first semester, and then 3 core classes that they do in their second semester, in the spring semester. After the first year, what's really cool is that we basically consider you to be ready for taking classes with the other CS graduate students. So all of the graduate students that are there in uh, the CIS master's program, the data science program, they would have been taking classes in their first year. But after the first year of CIT, CIT students are basically considered ready to take any of those classes. So it's 6 core classes in the first year and then 4 in the next year. Among those 4 courses, if you choose to, you can do one non-computer science elective. So that could come from a list of these approved courses that we have. And most of them are like statistics or math or other things that are somewhat computer science related, but not offered exactly in the computer science department. Can you get the next slide, please? Okay, so across sort of both the CIS program and CIT program, we have both domestic students or US citizens who take these programs, and also a whole number of international students who are on student visas. The difference between domestic students and international students is that international students must maintain full-time status. Full-time status in our programs is defined as taking 3 courses. US citizens, domestic students can do these programs part-time as well. So that means that you could choose to do 1 course or 2 courses. It's up to you. Typically, the timeline, and this is for both CIS and CIT, is that you start off by taking 3 courses in the fall, 3 courses in the spring. usually people will try to do some kind of internship in the summer. The internship is for your work experience. It doesn't count towards the degree. It is not mandatory in any manner. This is just, the typical experience. And then after the summer, when you come back for year two, you take 3 courses in the fall and then 1 course in the spring to finish out the degree. Yeah. Next slide. Yeah. Swap will take over.
Yeah, thanks, Arvind. So, in terms of admission, I think Abby did a great job of like going over all of this stuff. So, I won't sort of repeat the broader thing, but we'll talk more specifically about like our programs. So, in general, for your personal statement, our recommendation is please tell us sort of why you're interested in Penn specifically and this program specifically, because like in theory, you could apply to any of our master's programs. In theory, you could apply to any university in the US or anywhere in the world. So tell us like what especially attracts you about this program. Tell us sort of what your background is. Tell us like what you hope to do while you're in the program, what you hope to do once you graduated from the program. And in some ways, I would say the personal statement is the thing that gives you the most amount of freedom. So you can really write anything that you feel is relevant. So if there are like specific circumstances that you feel the committee should know about, you're welcome to include that. If there are things that are not quite captured by your resume or maybe your letters of recommendation, you're welcome to mention that. So that's about the personal statement. For letters of recommendation, generally we are looking for strong letters that tell us about your academic performance or if you've been working in industry or experience like working in the industry. So having strong letters either from your faculty or from your managers or supervisors are typically what most people do. And as we said, like GRE scores are optional. If you have taken them, you're welcome to report it, but you don't need to. And then of course, like make sure that your resume is up to date and has all the like certificates, training, like your undergrad degrees and all of that like listed. Could we have the next slide, please? Thanks. So here's sort of the student composition. So these programs, of course, like the sizes have varied a little bit over the years, but this is where we are currently. So typically we have something of the order of like 350 to 400 students in the CIS master's program, and roughly half are in the first year, roughly half are in the second year. For those who are doing an undergrad at Penn, for example, there is an option for an accelerated master's. So that probably doesn't apply to most of the people who are in the webinar right now, but that is an option as well. And then similarly for MCIT, it's roughly about like 150 people across the 2 years, roughly about like 70 or 80 in the first year, with like a slightly smaller pool of accelerated master's students. Go for it, Arun.
Yeah. Um, so the next couple of slides just describe the experience a little bit like outside of the classroom. So what if you admitted and you want to connect to other students, that experience, right? So our students connect up in a variety of different ways. So like in person, on campus. There are a number of advising office hours. There is a student mentoring program wherein second year students advise the first year students. This is entirely student run and it's fairly informal. Uh, there are some people who love mentoring, so they'll have like 2 or 3 mentees. There'll be some who mentor only one person, so on. There are lots of social events, roughly speaking, both for CIS and CIT. We do one social event a month. Usually that involves some kind of food. Sometimes it'll be like upcoming for CIT, for instance, we have an alumni panel where we have 2 former students returning to campus and talking about their work experience. So those are the, like in-person experiences. And then online, there is a Slack channel for both CIS and CIT students. There's a LinkedIn group, there's a Facebook group. So all the usual, like social media type stuff is also there for both CIS and CIT. Next slide, please. These are all, well, actually not all. This is a large subset, I would say, of the student resources that we have on campus. Uh, I mean, this one I should point out, and you can probably see over here, there's nothing in here which is just specific to CIS or CIT. These are resources that are available to all of our graduate students. So there's stuff at the overall graduate level, which is the Penn Engineering Graduate Affairs. There's, counseling and wellness services. There are groups that correspond to different ethnicities, different genders, all of that. There are many, many ways in which you can find other like-minded folks to connect with as you make your journey through Penn. And Swap will do the next few slides.
Thanks, Arvind. So this largely focuses on international students. I'll talk about domestic students as well a little bit, but let's start with the international students. So if you're international, of course, there are like immigration rules and things like that that don't apply if you're domestic. So for international students, in the summer, you can do an internship, but this counts as something called curricular practical training or CPT. And there are a few rules about these things. So specifically, like you can't do the CPT in your first couple of semesters because you will be taking classes. Specifically, you need to take or complete, I should say, 6 course units before you're eligible to do the CPT. So as Arvind mentioned earlier, the typical thing for most students, especially, and I guess it's required for international students, is you'll take 3 classes in your first semester, 3 classes in your second semester. So this both keeps you full-time and in compliance with immigration rules. This also makes you eligible to do a CPT in that first summer, if you so choose. In your third semester, you have this option of doing something called an academic field study. So the way this works is you could do, for example, effectively like a 6 month or close to like maybe a 7, 8 month internship that starts, let's say, sometime like in middle of May and goes on till like December. And or you can choose to do an internship and not do the field study, or you can choose not to do the internship and do only the field study. So in some ways, you have sort of all permutations available to you. And a lot of this really just depends on the person. There are some people who've told us, for example, I did an internship, the company asked me to continue working on this project, and can I do that? And there are ways to do that through AFS. There are some other options as well, and we can sort of talk about that if people are interested. Of course, if you're domestic, you can still do an internship, but all of these immigration rules don't apply. For example, if you're domestic, you could just work part-time while taking classes part-time or full-time. So that is, of course, like up to you, and you're very much welcome to do that if you would like. I should mention that 3 courses in our mind is a pretty heavy workload, or I should say it's close to like a 40-hour per week workload. So doing a full-time job in addition to doing 3 classes can be on the heavier side. So if you're domestic, for example, like come talk to us, we are happy to like help advise and sort of help plan out your coursework. There are some domestic students, for example, who take 2 classes a semester and stretch it out over 5 semesters and work part-time while doing that. So something like that is of course doable if you're domestic, but of course it's not allowed if you're international. The other thing I should mention, so we've had, of course, a lot of people doing internships over the years. Here are some examples that we have on the slides where people have gone to, of course, like the large like tech companies like Google, Meta, Amazon, Facebook, and so on. We also have people working at like the finance related institutions in New York because of the proximity to Philly. So places like Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan and things like that. We've also had people work at startups, both in New York and the Bay Area. There are also some smaller companies and bigger companies in the Philly area. So people have worked at many of those. And if you look at the link all the way at the bottom, that's for career services. So career services has a whole bunch of events that they provide. And this, of course, is not specific to any of our master's programs. This is for the whole university. So we do stuff that is broad for the whole university. And then there is stuff that is very specific to engineering and potentially these specific programs. So you'll get sort of like both kinds of like events that you can participate in. So there will be things like career fairs. They also do things like mock interviews and like resume review workshops, and you can like go and say, here's my resume, can you give me feedback, for example. So there's a lot of things like that. They of course help with like jobs and internships. And the other thing I'll mention is if you go to their website, they also have data on where people have done internships in the past and where people have like worked full-time in the past. Next slide, please. Thanks. So yeah, and this is sort of what people do when they graduate. So as I said, like a lot of people just end up going to industry because that is a popular option. We've had a good number of people going on to PhD programs, either here at Penn or elsewhere. Like the person that I listed over here, I remember because they ended up working with like a faculty member here, did a master's thesis, and is now a PhD student at Stanford. So you can look at the link there for like more details. Similarly, for MCIT, most people tend to go to like software engineering, SWE kind of roles. There are some people who end up doing data science roles as well. And then product or project management tends to be a pretty common career option, especially for the MBA plus MCIT students. But both for CIS and MCIT, we've had a decent number of people go into a PM kind of role. And as I mentioned, the link at the bottom is like what the career services collects in terms of data. So you're welcome to look at that. But here are some of our top hiring employers. It's like all the usual companies that you'd expect, places like Amazon, Apple, Meta, Netflix, Microsoft, and like the ones that you're probably a little bit less familiar with would be things like Citadel, Jane Street. These are hedge funds and like investment banking sort of companies out of New York, and we have like good connections with them as well. Next slide, please. Thanks.
Okay.
Back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Swap. Uh, yeah, I guess this is the slide that many of you are looking at because you're applicants. So what are we, or who are we looking for? So some of the bullet points over here, I think, are the ones that you'll think of most. Obviously, strong, grades and coursework and all that. Um, Swap already brought this up. I think the personal statement is something that you want to think carefully about. Just tell us why you're interested in the program. Tell us why specifically you feel that Penn Engineering is the place where um, you can fulfill your ambitions. There something specific about our department that attracts you? All of that goes into your personal statement. Um, I will also add that your recommendation letters eh, should ideally reflect what you're saying in your personal statement. So like a recommender who says something that will support what you're saying in the personal statement, like, oh, I am very hardworking. Great, you're hardworking. Does the recommender agree with you in some manner? That's something that we will be looking for if that's something that they say. Uh, the last bullet point is something that I do want to highlight. Like, you're coming here to Penn, um, and we're offering you an education, offering you ways to connect to other students and all that. But what are you going to bring to the Penn community? So importantly, will you be involved in the community? Will you help other students? Are you the kind of student who will at some point be interested in being a teaching assistant? Will you stay engaged with the community? All of those are viewed as positive points when we're looking for candidates. So think about that aspect of your application as well. I wasn't sure. Are we doing questions now or at the end?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're gonna do most of the questions at the end.
Okay.
I know they've been coming in the Q&A, so I'll be facilitating that at the very end.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Arvin. Thank you so much, Swap. I'm gonna pass it along now to our data science program.
Hello, everybody. My name is Susan Davidson, and I'm one of the two faculty co-directors for the data science program. I'd like to say thank you to Arvind and Swap for the excellent job they did. And I will say that many of the points that they made related to full and part-time study, resources and connecting, and that type of thing are also true for the data science program. But let me tell you a little bit about what this particular program is. So data science, rather than focusing necessarily on software, is all about the data, which is, as you know, ubiquitous in our life. And it's being used to make all sorts of decisions, from hiring to financing and so on. So data science program is one that we started a number of years ago, and the curriculum really has three different pieces. The foundation is 2 course units where you will have an education in programming languages and techniques or some sort of software engineering. And linear algebra is also another sort of foundation on which the other courses in the program will build. Many of the students coming into the program waive those because they have enough of a background in it. The core, the heart of the program, is really a course in statistics, a capstone course that we developed called Big Data Analytics, and then a course in machine learning. And there's any number of machine learning courses across campus now. They're emerging every year, which can be used to fulfill that. So everybody has to take the foundation and the core. And then above that, that leaves an additional 5 credits. There's a number of different what we call buckets of courses that you can use. I'm going to talk about the thesis and practicum in a minute, but there's all sorts of courses in social and network science, in data-centric programming, in social and statistical models, a number of different areas in which we have collections of courses that might be appropriate for those particular areas. So 5 credits can be taken in this. These are courses that are from across campus. They're not just in computer science or necessarily even in engineering, but they are courses across campus that we have vetted to see that they contain enough technical content to count towards this particular degree. So one of the things that students love about this program is its flexibility, because you can take at least half of the courses are really more at your discretion than in many other types of programs. Next slide. The first bucket that I sort of glided over and didn't talk a lot about is basically an independent project elective. And this can be in one course, which is what we call a practicum, or can be in a 2-semester sequence, which is more like a thesis. So the practicum will essentially take more of an engineering approach to solving a particular problem, whereas the thesis will be more like developing fundamentally new ideas to solving something. And the areas in which these practicum and theses can be done is across campus. And campus has any number of data science oriented centers and activities. So people have done work in medical images, in sort of languages and genomics. They've done it in healthcare. They've done it in equity and justice. They've done it in climate change. So there's a broad variety of different topics where you can apply the knowledge that you have gained in coursework in the program to particular problems, working with faculty from across the campus. And this is an exciting thing for our students. And employers are looking for this. They are looking for people who can not only do well in courses, but can actually do independent work as well. So this is a wonderful opportunity. Next slide. As I mentioned, these thesis and practicum projects can be done across campus because there's so many different centers now that are doing data science oriented things, from the School of Public Policy, Annenberg, to the medical school, Center for Biomedical Informatics, we have AI centers, we have a Warren Center for Network and Data Science doing more work in social science. So it's because of the strength and depth of the research that's being done at Penn that there's so many different possible projects that our students can become involved in. And we help you with this. We help manage this. Next slide. Where do our students go? Well, our graduates have all had very exciting jobs. And you can see some of the places are like Amazon, Bank of America, Bloomberg, Capital One, and so on. The titles, job titles that they get range from people that work more with data, like data science or machine learning engineer, to more on the software engineering side of things. And the top 5 companies that our students have gone to are Meta, Capital One, Bank of America, Amazon, and TikTok. Next slide. So the applications are basically the same as what was described before. In that application, we will see your transcript, and there we're looking for strong grades and relevant coursework. So essentially, we want to see that you're going to be successful in the courses that you'll be taking here at Penn. And essentially, we want to see the equivalent of a minor in computer science. So your prior coursework should include some programming discrete mathematics, which is a foundation for computer science, for data science as well, and data structures. So we don't want just that you can program a little bit that you've self-taught. We want to see coursework evidence of that. And we want to see that you have a foundation in probability and statistics. So that's sort of your transcript, and your letters from your letters of recommendation can also speak to that. Going beyond that, we really want to see a passion for data science. Data science has been such a hot topic in the past that many people sort of meander into it because they think, well, it might get me a good job, but they're not passionate about it. And we want people who are passionate. And how do we see that? Well, we see that by evidence of a deep understanding of what data science is through previous project work, either in a job or coursework that you've done as an undergraduate. So we're really looking for evidence of that prior experience, and we can see that in your resume. We can also see it in the personal statement, which again is your opportunity to tell us why you are passionate about data science, why you're prepared for data science, and why Penn, again, Penn is where you're applying, why Penn Engineering is the right place for you to be doing that data science. So we want to see in the personal statement that Penn in particular is important and of interest to you. And in the personal statement, as Swap and Arvind also mentioned previously, we want to see not just that you will be an excellent student, but that you will bring something to the program as well. And so we want to see that you're going to really be involved in our community, because it really is a community. It's a really wonderful group of students who work together and go well. Next slide. Oh, I guess that's the end of me.
Thank you so much, Susan. That was so helpful. And I know there's going to be questions. I've seen some questions come in for you. So we'll be looping back on some of those questions at the end of this. And now I'm going to pass it along to the robotics program.
Great, thank you. So let's go to the next slide. So my name is Ani Shia. I am the Deputy Director for the GRASP Laboratory, and I'm also the Program Chair for the Robo MSc program. So Robotics is actually sort of under the umbrella of Computer and Information Science Department, but in fact, the program is managed by GRASP and GRASP faculty. And for those of you who are not familiar with GRASP, basically we are an interdisciplinary robotics research lab. We were founded in 1979 by Dr. Rujana Bachi, and we are within the School of Engineering and Applied Science. Currently, the lab has we just added 3 more faculty, so we're around 27 primary faculty, with approximately 10 secondary faculty. We are primarily a research group, and so we have about around 131 PhD students. These students are coming to us. They are coming from mechanical engineering, computer information sciences, as well as electrical and systems engineering. And right now, with our new incoming class of Robo students, our numbers are now up to around 260 Robo MSc students. So faculty comes from 3 primary departments: computer information sciences, mechanical engineering and applied mechanics, as well as electrical and systems engineering. And then our research staff actually includes both postdoctoral researchers, our machine shop staff, as well as our administrative staff, which you will hear from Marielle in a little bit, who's our Robo program coordinator. Next slide. So the way I like to tell people about GRASP work is that if you ever encounter a robot, it doesn't matter if the robot walks, if it swims, if it drives, if it flies, we do it all. It doesn't matter if your robot is measured in terms of microns versus in terms of centimeters or meters. We also do it all. So if you look at the faculty and all the different sub areas within robotics, we basically, cover the entire spectrum. And so this is kind of the faculty that you're mostly going to be interfacing with. Next slide. Right now, we are currently sort of housed in 2 locations. We have our primary location, which is on main campus, that in Latson, Levine. And then we have our off-campus or our incubator location, which is GRASP at Pennovation. And so at Pennovation, we not only house our field robotics capability. So if you're working on robots that have to be outdoors, that work outdoors, this is usually the place that you would be testing your robotic systems. But also we have a dedicated robotics master's student project space, and that we can get into that some more later on. Next slide. So I'm going to pass the floor to Marielle so she can go over the curriculum.
Hi, I'm Marielle Salentano. I am the program coordinator for the robotics program. So our curriculum is a 10-course program. So 10 courses is 1 CU each, so 10 CUs or course units. Our first part of the course is you must take 1 course in 3 out of 4 foundational areas. So those 4 areas are artificial intelligence, robot design and analysis, control, and perception. So 1 course out of 3 out of these 4. Our curriculum also includes 5 technical electives, which you can see the links on the bottom, and 2 general electives. The technical electives are primarily select courses either out of the mechanical engineering department, computer science department, and electrical systems engineering department. There are some other courses in there that are not part of those, but primarily that is what they are in. The 2 general electives can come from a wider selection of departments, and you'll notice that our curriculum, there are no strict robotics courses. The courses are all made up from courses in these other departments. We have a couple options for how you take this curriculum. You can do course only, so that is any course on this list of our curriculum courses. You also have a thesis option. It's not required. This is just an option of how to do the program. The thesis is 2 credits over the course of 1 year, so 1 credit in the fall and 1 credit in the spring. The thesis is a individual project, and you'll be supervised by a faculty member, a GRASP faculty member. And at the end of your thesis in your final semester, you will submit your thesis paper to the school and participate in a poster session and lightning talk about your research. There is another option, and that is the capstone project, and that is also 2 CUs over the course of 2 semesters. You'll start your project in the fall and finish in the spring. Both of these options are only for students who are in their 2nd year. So your 1st year, you can't participate in these. We just want to see, what kind of work you're doing before faculty want to supervise you. A little bit about the capstone project. That is a group project, so you'll work with 2 to 4 members. Again, you're supervised by a faculty member, and those projects will differ each year. So at the beginning of the year, you'll have an email about the different projects available. Sometimes they are working just with faculty, sometimes they're working with our industry connections. So you'll just want to keep an eye out for that when that email comes out. Next slide. So just some general FAQs. The admissions to Robo is very competitive. We strongly encourage applicants to apply by the early admission deadline. And GRE scores are not required, but they are strongly encouraged. If you have them, we highly suggest that you submit those. And if you are able to get your GRE scores before the November 1st deadline, please submit them with your application. So the GRASP community on campus, we have a number of seminars that you can participate in. There is a GRASP on robotics and SFI, which is student, faculty, and industry. GRASP on robotics is mostly industry connections as well as some professors from other schools. And we also have annual industry days. So our industry days, we will have members from our industry connections come and give talks. They may have small interview sessions, and there is like a network at the end, network event where you can chat with these members and introduce yourselves and ask questions about what they're doing. We have a number of GRASP committees, the Student Advisory Council, Shared Knowledge Committee, and Social Committee. You are welcome to be a member of these committees when we look for students to join these each year. There are also a number of social events. So there are reading groups, the social events from GRASP, the GRASP administrators, and social events that are part of the social committee. There are hackathons. We have a GRASP Women's listserv, and we will have events geared specifically towards the women in our program. Some of our alumni go on to academia, such as Stanford, George Mason University, Berkeley, all of these different things. There have been a couple startups from GRASP alumni, such as Ghost Robotics, TreeSwift, and a couple others there. There are a lot of people who go out to industry, such as Waymo, Amazon Robotics, Zoox, and you can also find those on our website, a larger list of those alumni. I don't know if that's... We do have a virtual lab tour. I'm not sure if the link is on here, but please go to our website and you can find that video.
Perfect. Thanks, Marielle. Yeah, I think because of time, there's not time to show that, but just to echo, Marielle is on the YouTube page, so definitely check it out.
Let me just sort of, say something real quickly to kind of highlight the material that Marielle went over. And it's the fact that, GRASP and robotics here, we're not a department, right? But robotics is fundamentally an interdisciplinary field. And the curriculum is specifically designed to reflect that. And the GRASP faculty and the organization, right, of the lab is specifically sort of designed in such a way that it really promotes the interdisciplinary nature of the field.
Perfect. Thanks, Ani. And thank you both, Ani and Marielle, for your portion of that presentation. We have a couple minutes left for Q&A, so I just want to encourage folks. I know questions have been coming in and being answered, so I just want to encourage folks to continue to ask questions if they haven't been answered yet, especially for the program staff while we have them here. A couple, just a quick plug, I want to just push right here. If you do have any other questions that aren't answered in this session, especially if they're more application focused, please feel free to reach out to our office directly, the Graduate Admissions Office. We have an FAQ page. You can request more information. We're also having a ton of different events coming up in the next couple of months. One of those events is actually specific to the early admission deadline as well. So on October 20th, we're going to be having a coffee chat, which is a little less formal and allows you to come off camera, come on camera, come off mute, and get your questions answered. The early admission program managers will be here for that session. So please feel free, if you have continued questions about your application and about the program, you can attend this session as well. It's really geared towards the early deadline, but if you are not going to use the early deadline, totally fine. You're more than welcome to come as well. And that being said, I'm going to pivot over to some questions that we received just while we still have time. So the first question I have is for robotics. And one of the questions we got pre-submitted was, what kinds of labs or projects on campus are the big focus areas of robotics right now?
That's a good question. It's a little hard to answer. I don't know if Ani, you have, Professor Shia, if you have.
So I would say that it depends on what type of project we're talking about, right? So I think in the courses, we do emphasize hardware. So we have classes that really gives you hands-on experience with robotic platforms. But we also have courses, right, that are potentially more focused on the software side that also give you a lot of opportunities to get experience implementing, right, the algorithms and the learning architectures that you're actually discussing in class. And so, that is sort of from a course perspective. There is also, outside activities. So if you're interested in getting involved in research, then now the kinds of projects you may get involved with is going to be very dependent on the faculty advisor and what the research that their groups are doing.
Perfect. Great. Thank you. Again, I encourage folks who are interested to take a look at the GRASP website as well, just to see what research is happening. Again, the tour, things like that can be really, really helpful. And my next question is for data science. If I'm interested in environmental or ESG impact work within data science, are there any research groups, labs, or cross-school initiatives where data science students really actively collaborate? And what's the best first step to connect with those different groups?
Great question. And I saw that, I know that on the faculty in computer science, there are several people who are actively involved in sort of environmental issues. And I'm sure that through them, so for example, Benjamin Pierce has been at the school level leading initiatives in that area or participating. So a first step would be for engineering connections. He certainly would be more aware of what the abilities are, but we also have a number of different, we have an environmental and so we have departments and we have a number of centers that are associated with those that are in environmental science. So I would start by going to those places and seeing what the opportunities are.
Thank you, Susan. And I'm not sure exactly which program this is for. I'm making an assumption that it might be for MCIT, but for prior coursework, would MOOCs like Coursera be recognized even if they provide certificates but not official grades? I'm going to kind of open the floor to anyone who feels like that might be relevant.
Yeah, I think that they're a good first step. If there's nothing else, that's better than nothing. But given that we really need to evaluate whether you're going to be able to be successful in our courses, and these are prerequisites for those courses, we kind of need to see how well you did in those courses. So if there's nothing else, that's fine, but we really do need to see grades so that we can make determinations.
Okay, great. And then for, again, another one for data science, Susan, how much of the program is focused on the theory side versus actually working with tools and or with coding?
Oh, so I think our courses typically have a blend of the theory and coding. So for example, big data analytics, it's all about writing collab notebooks for a number of different types of problems. So you're doing a lot of coding based on Python in our capstone course. In courses like machine learning, you are learning the fundamentals, but at the end of it, or there will be throughout the semester, a number of projects, and there'll be a project at the end of the course, homework, programming, homework assignments, and projects. And in databases, which is what I teach, it's the same sort of blend of programming and theory, but then a big project that pulls all of the things together. So I think we really do have a focus on teaching the theory, teaching the fundamentals, but then showing that they work through projects.
Great. And then another question for robotics is, does the MSc in Robotics capstone project involve working with faculty, or would we get paired with an actual company?
It depends on the project. So some projects are company sponsored. And so in those cases, you will have both a faculty as well as an industrial advisor. And then between, the group, they will then decide what the sort of, update rates and sort of how frequently to meet to discuss project progress and updates. And then some projects are sort of faculty driven. And in those cases that, may or may not have an industrial sponsor. Sometimes an industrial sponsor comes in halfway through the project. So that is also a possibility. But it really kind of depends on a case by case basis.
Great. I'm going to pivot over to MCIT because Swap, I know you had mentioned this briefly, but someone is an incoming Wharton MBA student and they want to apply to the MBA MCIT dual degree. When should they apply for the MCIT program?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think Radian might have a better answer to this if he is available. But if not, like if the person who asked the question, if you just email me or Arvind, we can like check the exact deadlines. My understanding is that there is flexibility because of the dual nature of the program, so you can choose to apply now or later. But in some ways, like we can talk with you about your specific course plans, because with the dual, you could try to finish things in 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, depending on how you want to space things out. So depending on that, that might affect the timeline.
Does having less hardware but more robotic software experience hurt the application?
I don't think so. I mean, I think we kind of try, well, let me put it this way. We evaluate the applicants holistically, and it's more, and yes, there is a lot of programming. So we do want to make sure you have programming experience. However, there is not a preference, right, for hardware versus software, because fundamentally you need both in robotics. And so, for us, it's more about someone who is interested in robotics as a whole.
Thanks, Ani. To respect everyone's time, we have just a minute left. So I just want to echo one more time that, first of all, thank you so much for everyone who attended this session, but a special thanks to all of the faculty directors and program managers that attended and were answering questions in the background, answering things live, presenting. I really appreciate that collaborative effort. And if anyone still has questions that did not get answered, I encourage you to see if you can attend this October 20th coffee chat. But if not, please feel free to either reach out to the graduate admissions office directly, or you can reach out to, if you have like curriculum questions or more program specific questions, you can also reach out to the programs directly. So please don't hesitate to reach out. We want to get all of your questions answered. And I think I can say, we're all looking forward to reviewing the applications that come in, whether it's for the early deadline or the regular deadline. Again, thank you all so much for attending, and thank you all so much for joining today. Have a wonderful rest of your day.